Futuristic English presents the movie analysis of Joker 2019.
Tune in to have a deep dive into how this movie came to be, how widespread its success is, and a thorough psychological and social look at what this movie is trying to tell.
A great deal of controversy occurred before and after this movie was released. We will look at how it was perceived as a threat which could emotionally motivate mass shooters at movie theaters. You're listening to Futuristic English, the podcast on which you can find almost every topic you're interested in, like fascinating historical stories and distinctive books and movies.
Futuristic English, the channel which makes sure you don't fall behind in the world of books, movies, news, and amusing events which can amaze us. If you subscribe in our channel, you'll be able to make use of our superbly erudite episodes primarily made for English language learners.
Please subscribe in our channel to make use of our expertly detailed analysis on every episode's language knowledge, carefully curated for those who are fans of a unique source to build their language knowledge on, all in one place here at Futuristic English. Hello and welcome to Futuristic English. I'm Hadi.
They call me Milad. This is a very special episode that we've provided today.
Yes, it's so special that we have to alert our fellow listeners to spoilers.
Spoilers to those who still haven't watched the movie Joker 2019. If you haven't watched this movie, it's probably a mistake listening to this episode.
Go watch it and then listen to this thorough analysis of this movie.
So, before going through the plots, let's talk about the main actor, Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix, the Hollywood superstar, is 45 years old and was born in Puerto Rico. He has received numerous accolades during his glamorous career in acting, such as 2 Golden Globe Awards, the award for Best Actor at the Cannes Film Festival, and last but not least, 2 Academy Awards, that one of which is for the exceptionally sensational performance during the movie Joker in 2020. Movie aficionados might remember him from the movies Her and Gladiator.
And the director is Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips, born in 1970 in New York, has been a controversial figure in Hollywood. He's directed the movies Borat and the Hangover trilogy. Now, speaking of controversy, before this movie was published in movie theaters, there had been many arguments over the level of violence this movie contains, right, Hadi?
Yes, many critics had warned that this movie contains some atrociously violent scenes, which I personally thought were bogus claims. This level of violence is absolutely nothing compared to that of many other movies such as Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2.
Some might argue that the content would convey a sense of sympathy with people who, become mass shooters. That's why it was thought to be a provoking movie to some people, which I believe is not a viable argument. I mean, are we still talking about video games and movies as the cause of violence across the world? Isn't that a foregone conclusion that everything is subjective? I mean, yeah, probably someone somewhere played a video game or watched a certain kind of movie and said to themselves, yeah, malice and violence are fun, and went on to kill or do some other harm on people.
Yeah, amen to that. It is worth mentioning that a number of movie theaters in the US took some serious preventative measures in case someone from the audience is induced to start a mass shooting or something. Even the movie theater where the 2012 Aurora Colorado mass shooting occurred during a screening of The Dark Knight Rises, refused to show it. In another similar incident, 3 families of victims, as well as the mother of a witness, signed a letter to Warner Brothers with the request. Additionally, mainstream theaters prohibited moviegoers from wearing Joker costumes during its run, while the Los Angeles and New York City police departments increased police visibility at area theaters, though they did not receive any specific threat.
Yeah, so big concerns over there during the depiction of the movie. They were right to implement such security measures because, according to many specialists, drama makes lasting impressions on the viewers. I mean, I personally subscribe to that theory.
Yeah, let's dig into the plot rabbit hole, shall we?
Let's do it.
The film is set in Gotham City in the 1980s. Gotham is a fictional city which is known as the home of Batman. We're gonna talk about Batman as well. The societal situation of that time and place looks to be a depressing one. Equitable life is at a premium and everyone, at least the ones who are shown in the movie, struggles with life and a way to extricate themselves from the unkindness going on in that particular location.
Yes, not to mention that the movie starts with a garbage strike. It starts with a garbage strike. Let's listen to the opening moments of the movie.
The news never ends. This is 1080 GCR. You get all the news you need all day long. Good morning. It's 42 degrees at 10:30 on this Thursday, October 15th. I'm Stan L. Brooks, and here's what's happening. It's day 18 of the garbage strike, with 10,000 tons of garbage piling up every day. Even the nicest sections of the city are looking like slums. Health Commissioner Edward O'Rourke is declaring a citywide state of emergency for the first time in decades.
There's no need to wait until somebody dies or comes down with typhoid fever.
This part has a lot to say to the viewer. The radio news anchor says, quote, "It's day 18 of the garbage strike with 10,000 tons of garbage piling up every day. Even the nicest sections of the city are looking like swamps," unquote. And then people are interviewed and they complain harshly about the appalling mess that has overcome their city by, talking about rats and the awful smell. The city is reeking of garbage, and if you pay close attention when streets are being filmed, there are piles of untouched garbage on sidewalks. So, what does this tell you, Hadi, about, how the movie is gonna go?
Yeah, man, that's absolutely right. It simply adds a lot to the film. It's all about darkness, and I believe it's the best start possible for a thematic movie at this magnitude. Nothing was inadvertently placed in this part.
So, let's talk about our dejected main character a little bit.
Yeah, Arthur Fleck, who later in the movie will be referred to as Joker, is a middle-aged man who lives in Gotham City with his mother, Penny Fleck. He looks to be working for a kind of agency for sidewalk shows as a clown and doesn't seem to be happy with his life at all. While he is on the sidewalk doing his job, while holding a sign, he is confronted with a group of youngsters who are trying to make fun of someone's unfortunate job. They grab his sign and start running. Arthur runs after them and those youngsters surrounded him in an alley. He wants his sign back and they start harassing him by maiming him and smashing his sign in his face.
Yeah, in the beginning, I thought to myself, why is he risking himself over a sign? How valuable that could be.
Later on, we will see that his employer says to him, quote, "Get the sign back or I will take it out of your payment," unquote. So, pretty valuable, I guess.
Yeah, cruelly valuable.
Yeah. Anyhow, as the movie goes on, we see that he is taking a kind of psychological therapy which is indicative of his mental issues.
I have something to say about that office for that therapy you said.
Sure, go on.
That office looks like a very disorganized storeroom, not a therapy office. Not to mention how ineffective that therapy was. The woman on the other side of the table would barely look at Arthur. He would hold the cigarette in his hand, and she would constantly look down at her notes or something. He really needed someone to talk to, and that was the most he could get.
Continuing with character development. While living in a conspicuous mess, Arthur didn't seem to have lost his hope completely. He was, at the time, coming up with his own original material for stand-up comedy. However, darkness had also crept into his material's note as well. There was this sentence, which I for one cannot find a way to call it a joke, that read, quote, "I hope my death makes more sense than my life."
Yeah, pretty harsh. And he was also suffering from this condition that would make him laugh uncontrollably and hysterically. Should I talk about the laughter? Oh god.
Yeah, man.
Okay. This movie is so detailed in psychology that it literally moved me. I mean, why laughter? Usually, when someone feels extremely downcast or unappreciated, starts crying or venting through violence. This anomalous character would unwantedly laugh. I personally felt this pity in my stomach for how complicated his condition was.
Yeah, it's strongly influential when it comes to psychology. Anyway, Arthur was living in a nondescript apartment with his mother. His mother seemed to be very reluctant about what was going on with her son. One day, when Arthur was on his way home, he came on a flying visit with this lady and her daughter. The elevator was acting up and she pointed her left hand on her head like a pistol and motioned to have killed herself. That was the moment when Arthur thought they could be together as partners.
Yeah, the night after that elevator incident, this nameless lady knocks on Arthur's door and asks him to turn his TV down. They talk and set a date to meet each other in a stand-up comedy club. The movie takes the viewer to that comedy club where Arthur is waiting to perform his bit, but while performing, due to audience pressure, he starts laughing at a very bad moment. Right then, his video clip was recorded and shown on TV the night after. The host of the show, played by Robert De Niro, ridicules his performance on live TV, implying that he is an inept stand-up comedian. Just when you thought things couldn't have gotten worse. He continues on his date with this lady, and when he went home, he tried to dance with his mother in an exuberant mood, but his mother met him with disdain and didn't take him seriously when Arthur told her that he had a date. She also kept asking if he checked the mailbox, and he would respond positively and would tell her that they had received no letters from Thomas Wayne. Now, who is Thomas Wayne?
An affluent official who was running for mayor. Arthur's mother tells him that Thomas Wayne is his father and he decides to confront him. After a few failed attempts, he finally finds the chance to meet him. Arthur tells him his penny-flake son, his son. Thomas Wayne says it's a lie and his mother was not in a state of mental equilibrium and that he had her files and stuff. Arthur, struck with shock, goes to the city's mental hospital to find out about the truth. He steals his mother's files after a skirmish with the clerk. He finds out it was true and his mother had fed him lies.
We will continue the episode after this.
This is the movie analysis of Joker 2019. Make sure you share this episode with your friends who love to know what's more to the story of this movie.
So, as we were saying, Arthur finds out about the reality and goes nuts. At the same time, the social services regarding the psychological treatments stopped and he could no longer get his medication. He also finds out that his mother had adopted him and brought him home to an abusive boyfriend who would physically and sexually assault him in his childhood. His mother was living in a fantasy world. Later, one of his co-workers hands him a gun, saying, quote, "You need protection after what happened to you with those youngsters," unquote. That's the most pivotal moment of his life. He could kill.
Yeah, so the first grim incident happens when he's on a train on his way home, and there he meets these young thugs who are trying to harass a lady on the train. He starts laughing again due to his condition and attracts their attention. They think he's laughing at them and decide to kick him around. He then shoots at two of those thugs and kills them at point blank range, and he chases the other one and empties the rounds on his back. Little did he know he had killed people related to Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, they were Wayne's subordinates, so the murder made a lot of noise in the city. A man with a clown's mask was thought to be the murderer. In a viral interview, Thomas Wayne said, quote unquote, "We who have made something of our lives will look at those who haven't as clowns."
Yeah, a very belittling remark. Everything led to another, and Arthur Fleck became a notorious murderer. He would feel intrepid when he held a gun in his hand. One of the most poignant scenes of the movie was when he went to his girlfriend's house to meet her, but she was behaving as if she had seen him for the first time. This moment sprang a surprise on him, and for some unknown reason, decided to kill her too. He got arrested when he shot the TV host in the face on live television after he expressed his anger at the host for making fun of him on TV. He also confessed to the murder on the subway while he was in that program.
Yeah, whoever he killed had somehow inflicted damage on him in some way. Even his own mother. Before going any further, I just want to bring it up before it slips away from my mind. Did you see that little boy, Thomas Wayne's son?
Yeah, what about it?
If you watched Batman movies before, you'll see that Batman or Bruce Wayne says in one of the movies that his parents were indiscriminately killed in front of him. And that was his inspiration to fight with bad guys.
Okay, what are you driving at?
That little boy is Batman in Gotham City.
Oh yeah, didn't see it that way. So anyway, let's go through the main part of the episode. We mentioned the fact that he was abused in his childhood, right?
Yes, he sees the medical records of his mother and remembers when he was, brutally tied to a radiator while his mother's boyfriend would abuse him while his mother was watching.
Okay, just getting it out of the way. And we also see in a glimpse in the movie that he's in a mental hospital, banging his head against the door of his room. So the genesis of his melancholy life took place when he was a little kid. He had carried all that trauma through his adulthood, and it was an unmitigated situation for him.
Yes, he didn't seem to have received practical and conducive therapy for his childhood trauma. Here's a medical fact by stateofopportunity.michiganradio.org that suggests how childhood trauma can cause lasting impacts on a person, which says, quote, "Academically, socially, behaviorally, physically, emotionally, you name it, trauma impacts it. Experiencing trauma is so harmful to kids that it can actually hinder their brain development. It creates lasting changes to brain structures like the amygdala, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex. Enduring traumatic stress can even impact kids' memory, making it more difficult to recall certain short-term memories. Unquote.
That's not all. The same source also claims, quote, trauma can forever change a kid's life, brain, and body. If left untreated, adults who survive childhood trauma are more likely to struggle with substance abuse and mental health issues. Childhood adversity can even turn kids into physically sick adults. Trauma can also impact a kid's ability to have healthy adult relationships and experience intimacy, leading to a whole host of other problems like intimate partner violence and unplanned pregnancies. Unquote. So, this is the kind of character that we deal with during the movie.
Yes. Also, British neurocriminologist Adrian Raine was impressed by how accurate the film's depiction of the psychology of a murderer was. In an interview with Vanity Fair, he described it as quote-unquote a great educational tool and stated that he planned to present this movie's clips during his classes. Psychiatrist Kamran Ahmed highlighted the factors in Arthur's childhood, such as parental abuse and loss, and family history of mental illness in the genesis of his condition. American psychiatrist Imani Walker, who is known for Bravo television series Married to Medicine, Los Angeles, and working with violent criminals with mental disorders, she analyzed the Joker's apparent mental disorders and circumstances, but also notes that Arthur was trying to get help before his downfall. She says of Arthur and others in poverty who have mental illnesses, quote, "We as a society don't even pretend that they are real people. And that's what this movie is about. He never had a chance." Unquote. Also, Michael Utrecht, managing director of Jacobin, opined in a review published by The Guardian that he was shocked that the media did not understand the movie's message. He said, quote unquote, "We got a fairly straightforward condemnation of American austerity, how it leaves the vulnerable to suffer without the resources they need, and the horrific consequences for the rest of society that can result." Unquote. Ahmed also highlights the lack of funding for already stretched mental health services worldwide.
So, a person who has been severely traumatized in his childhood is being treated in an abrasive manner by society and his mother, who also is not capable of receiving appropriate therapy. He later becomes this cold-blooded murderer. He is perceived by society and also Robert De Niro as a nefarious individual who is inherently evil and is proud of killing.
It is an evil characteristic to enjoy killing people, but this movie provides the possibility to imagine why he wanted to treat people terribly. This movie exists to help you understand that point of view if you can't. This movie is 2 hours of chaos and the celebration of chaos. The thing this movie was conveying to me was that we are not gonna give you a resolution because someone in that state of mind does not get a resolution. This downtrodden, dejected, mentally ill person. Nothing is resolved for that individual. The feeling of life continues like that for him.
Exactly. This is some deep stuff. The resolution for that person is to end the other individual. There is no conversation on changing his ways. His communication method becomes more chaos and more violence, which is what he was suffering from before he became like that.
Yeah. The reason why so many critics were concerned that this Joker movie is going to trigger violence is that it somehow conveys a sense of sympathy with the protagonist, the hero, and the evil in the same movie. But it is tough to condense into a package a very complicated topic. Of course, it could be a bad movie to watch for the wrong person, you know?
Absolutely. He was hard done by, and people had treated him terribly, and he wanted to treat people terribly. On the other hand, Difficult topics are going to be difficult to talk about. There was no way to wrap this with a bow tie. It portrays how a bad roll of dice could lead a person down this chaotic path.
Yeah. Some critics have asked what the point of a one-off superhero without another balancing character is. They are right though. There is absolutely zero balance in this movie. There is no good side to this thing. Usually there would be a Batman on the other side of the force, but this one,
Precisely. It came as a surprise that this was how the movie was gonna map out. I mean, depicting this life story which has almost no sign of resilience or altruism. As you pointed out, Milad, that this movie also carries with it a thinly disguised criticism towards how the downtrodden are left helpless, and in the case of this individual, only with that nominal social counseling which ended up leaving this rejected individual alone in his darkness.
and also the disparity between the social levels, you know. I mean, like the dichotomy or the difference between how affluent some people in a society are and how less privileged the rest of that society is. It wanted to tell the perfect world, hey, come to this part of the story for a minute. Come see how life is going on in this neck of the woods. Don't bury your head in the sand and come see how the majority of people are living.
The uninteresting part for me was how critics responded to this movie.
Oh my god, don't even get me started.
Just what I had in mind. Anyway, to my chagrin, many critics didn't welcome this movie and labeled it as a commercially seductive movie.
Yeah, and I saw The Guardian completely discrediting the movie and passed judgment on the motivation of the director Todd Phillips, that he allegedly wanted to draw attention and sell as much as possible by providing as many emotional scenes as possible.
Some other critics also claimed that the title Joker could also be a tempting name for fans of DC movies.
And what are DC movies?
Well, Detective Comics movies. DC is the abbreviated form of the term.
Okay. I believe the claims of these critics are as spurious as their reputation, you know.
I don't know, man.
The movie won several awards in the Oscars, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah, whatever wrong there is in the movie, Joaquin Phoenix is the silver lining in it.
Boom! Todd Phillips tried to put forward a social and psychological message as graphic and with as much clarity as possible, you know, and of course, which was received with unbelievable and glowing reviews by the majority of the viewers.
2 weeks, only 2 weeks after the movie was released, I was seeing profile pictures on social media of Joker left and right. This fact simply implies that everyone could relate to that character. It doesn't mean they like the devil's side or something.
Exactly. It brought a lot of tears to the eyes of many viewers, including myself, when he was being insolently treated by people. Some people perceived it to be egregious to empathize with that downcast person whose feelings were bottled up and was only after a decent outlet to be heard, but he would keep getting rejected and battered by the horrible world in Gotham City.
And also, it is rightfully claimed that this movie bears a striking resemblance to the movie Taxi Driver, played by Robert De Niro as the protagonist. And Milad, do you know how much the budget of this movie was?
Not a clue.
According to box office, this movie's budget was only $55 million.
Not such an exorbitant sum for producing a movie.
Exactly. Here's the mind-boggling part. It only took 55 mils to be produced, right?
Okay.
It sold a total of $1,111,000,000.
Wow. That's some odd numbers you got there. As long as I remember, similar movies such as Dark Knight 2008 sold around $1 billion, but that one cost something around $180 million, 3 times more than how much it took to make Joker 2019.
Yes, and also Suicide Squad 2016 sold roughly $850 million, but the budget was $175 million.
Joker 2019 stands out in DC movies revenue, ladies and gentlemen, with the same rating as Dark Knight 2008 by IMDb, in which both movies got 9 out of 10 points. Okay, who do you think, Hadi, should watch this movie in general?
As we mentioned before, it could be the right movie for the right person. Of course, this is not the kind of movie you want to watch to entertain yourself for 2 hours. Get ready for 2 hours of an emotionally strong movie with deep and conflicting messages. Viewer discretion is highly advised.
You said it. I had many existential questions right after watching this movie, like what really is evil, or are criminals to blame, or how many people have been adversely affected by my intentional or unintentional actions, like this individual, Arthur Fleck.
Yeah, I recommend this movie to everyone, but if I had a son or a daughter, I would refrain from watching such a melancholy movie with them.
Amen to that. I also think that this movie cannot be a good entertainer for people with depression or anxiety. So, how would you rate it from 0 to 10?
Well, 9 out of 10 for me. How about you?
15 out of 10. Is that acceptable?
Oh, come on.
Hey man, I watched the life of a belligerent, alienated, and distraught person with a satisfying backstory in 2 hours. It gave me the understanding as to why there are so many criminals in a certain society.
So, that was it for today. The movie review of Joker 2019 by Futuristic English.
Make sure to share this episode with your friends to enjoy this thorough review and our continuing content on our channel. You can find us on Telegram and Instagram at Futuristic English. That is FUTURISTICENGLISH, one word. This has been Milad.
And Hadi.